Our favourite time of the week to talk to our favourite person in the world, fresh from a little sachet around the Greek islands, spending time with her beautiful family, and now she joins us on the other side of the world, the one, the only, the wonderful Megyn Kelly. Look at you, rested, looking $1 trillion, normally $1 million, but I'm going to say it's $1 trillion tonight. Well done.
Thank you. Highly recommend Greece. Totally enjoyable, lovely people.
Now, I know a lot can change, but let's just talk about the past couple of hours, let alone weeks, right? What a set of stones on Donald Trump. Now, I've got to say, I know, whatever, if you're one of these people who's looking for the wiggle words, come back another night, right? Because I'm just going to go all in on how much I love this bloke at the moment. For how many years American presidents back channels to send a message to Israel and a back channel to send a message to Iran. He just goes, nah, I told you knock it off by now. I don't care who started it. I don't care who finished it. This is it. And think of just the clarity. And I love, he's not buggerising around with a press conference. Bang it out. The world knows how he feels.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.
I love the clarity, Megyn.
Yes, and he's got cards to play now, because look, Iran is out of cards. It really doesn't have much it can do. It's been absolutely decimated militarily and the heads of its nuclear program and so on. But we just did Israel the biggest solid one could do for the country of Israel. And Trump's got some cards to play. So he said, F this, you're turning those planes around, because the ceasefire was broken by Iran with 2 missiles that didn't hit. They had dropped a missile attack right before the ceasefire that was bad, that actually did hurt some Israelis, but it was before. And Trump's mad that he feels Israel's overreacting and taking the bait in response to a rather feckless first breach by Iran. And the next post we get is they're turning those planes around. And, and they did. Like Netanyahu, it's not like he's going to take all of his marching orders from Trump, but if there's anybody he's got to listen to right now, it is Trump. I mean, my God, for 20 plus years, he's been begging any American president to help him and to do for him what Trump just did for him. So, Trump does not want this thing to fall apart because some lunatic Iranian at some ballistic missile site pressed go twice in the wake, the wee hours of the ceasefire. So, it's like, you don't have to treat everything like it's an 11, I think is what Trump is trying to say. That's how we got into never ending conflict here. Why don't we try to pretend it still is a ceasefire and behave accordingly?
And I've got to say too, I've just been thinking about, 10 years since he came down the golden escalator, all the highs, all the lows, literally being shot at, almost going to jail. But it was the frustration of dealing with these two nations that brought out the first public F-bomb that I've heard him ever say.
Yeah, I haven't heard him say it except for like in a joking context, at his rallies here or there, and very infrequently. He doesn't drop it a lot. I've never heard him say it like as a matter of frustration on U.S. policy. I mean, that was something, and he did it intentionally. Trump knows what he's doing, especially when it comes to marketing and messaging. And I'm sure he is incredibly frustrated with these powers. The thing about Trump is, while he's had very strong feelings about the world, the nation, the economies, and military conflicts for decades, dealing with the Middle East is especially sticky wicket. And I don't think that's something you fully understand until you're in it full time. And he's been dealing with Steve Witkoff, his friend, who he made Middle East envoy. And also that's the guy dealing with Russia, Ukraine. And it's just an impossible situation. Look how many brilliant minds have tried to solve it. How many U.S. presidents have tried to be the one to swoop in and solve it. It feels extremely unsolvable. I mean, you cannot get Hamas and Iran to soften up on their feelings about Israel and its right to exist, nor can you talk the Israelis out of their belief that they should go on existing and they have the right to live. So it's like, it's almost unsolvable in a way, other than trying to just convince each side to put down their arms. And by each side, I really do mean the Iranians and its proxies, because they're just so determined to kill Israelis and Jews. So so many men have tried, men in positions of power, and succeeded for a short time and then failed. It took Trump getting to be president and actually starting to really immerse himself in the Middle East, I think, to learn it firsthand. I think that's what we were hearing today with the use of the F-bomb, just his personal frustration at the impossibility of this conflict.
Yeah. Also, again, I go back to just the clarity, right? Where he goes, look, I understand that, generally speaking, these conversations, there's no Goldilocks place where it's just right because you this and that before and before that and after this. And, there's always a way to justify not being the one to draw a line. But he's saying, hey, we're the ones here. Let's draw the freaking line. But then what about the action-packed flight on his way to Europe, where, again, in real time, bang, 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 Putin, Netanyahu, he's getting stuff done. He's not sitting back watching a movie while flying in between engagements. This is a working plane.
I think President Trump is exactly what we needed him to be. He really is feeling very strong, fired up, and free. He didn't listen. Look how it's just a pattern with him. No matter how much stress is put on him or, circumstances that would make most of us crumble and not get out of our beds, it's almost like he feeds off of it. The more you try to beat him down, the greater he grows. And I think the most recent circumstance was last week was while he was trying to weigh what to do. For the first time in decades, an American president had been asked by the Israelis to drop a bomb on Iran, and the circumstances made it a very viable option, right? It had been a much more difficult decision, I think, in some ways in the past when Iranian proxies were still strong. They hadn't been decimated by Israel in a lengthy couple-year war. And so, Trump was asked to make a tough decision, and he was able to say yes when other presidents weren't. And in part, it was because he had better circumstances because of the hobbling of the proxies of Iran. But in part, it was because Trump has zero Fs to give about criticism, even from his top political allies. Look who was coming down on him. Well, I forget the left. He's used to that, and he thrives off of that. I'm talking about Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, people, Thomas Massie, people inside his own party, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's like one of the main faces of MAGA, congresswoman on the right, all saying this is absolute folly. It absolutely should not be done. Stay out of this. This is not our war. And he listened to them. He had them in, a couple of them, to the Oval or talked by phone to them and overruled them and said, you know what? I thank you for your input. I think I know better. I have a different judgment that I'm going to make. And it worked. It worked and hasn't spilled out into some greater, World War III right now. Even whatever, the ceasefire is going to get violated as it always does between these Middle East countries. But the fact that the Iranian response to our bombing was as limited as it was is a miracle. And it's to President Trump's credit in calculating how this would likely go. But that guy who's able to say, I'm doing this to his top allies over their strenuous objections really is at the point where he has zero Fs to give. Then I think that's who you're seeing on that airplane. Like, what else? Bring it. Let's go.